From the Evac Fime Studios in Jerusalem, Israel, our nation's capital, it's Louis Live! Now here, host, me, and Raphael Geller. How you doing, Raphael?
Good. I just got a haircut. I shaved.
Yeah, looks good.
Ready for Pesach. Ready to get the holidays going.
Have you cleaned your house at all?
No, not yet. But we're in the process. That will be an all week thing next week before the Seder Friday night.
Yeah, it's weird this year. Pesach is a Friday night, and I have a whole week. Basically, I'm having a party here. Anyone listening is invited. 37 Evac Street, across from Pizza Italia. The apartment's number 4. It's like maybe at 10 p.m. Motzei Shabbat. Not Friday night, Motzei Shabbat. One of my friends got confused. He was talking about Facebook till like 2 in the morning about it. But it's Motzei Shabbat, and then so I figured I'm not going to clean before the party because people will bring the chametz, and then afterwards I could clean. I have a whole week to clean. But right now, let's not talk about my party. Let's give a couple of schedule announcements. Again, tomorrow is the big Israel Bowl 5 at Kraft Family Stadium at noon local time. It'll be 5 in the morning on the East Coast if you're interested in listening. And in Arizona, it is, a couple more hours before that. I think it's 2 in the morning. Yeah, 2 in the morning out in Arizona. If you want to listen to the Zinker brothers play for the Sabres to take on the Pioneers for the title. And we will have some of the principals in that game later on in this broadcast. 5:30 is Itai Ashkenazi, and 5:45 is Saeed Abulafia. So it'll be a fun show to talk to them. And, Raphael, who do we have at 5:15?
We have Barry Bloom, who is the national reporter and columnist for MLB.com. So that's going to be great, especially since baseball season technically started a
couple days ago in
Japan. So we'll get to preview some teams with him, talk to him about some of the maybe some of the meltdowns last year, the Braves, of course, and
the Red Sox.
Yeah, right, the Red Sox.
And I want to ask about this Japan thing because there was a tradition for the longest time that the Reds get the first game of the year because they were the first team in Major League Baseball, and then a few years ago they just switched it for whatever reason.
Right.
And a couple of years ago, back I think it was 2008, if I'm not mistaken, the Red Sox and the A's played in Japan, and there was negotiations. The Red Sox almost didn't aboard the plane because some of their staff were not getting paid what they thought proper amount of money. So we're going to ask Barry about that at 5:15, and again who he likes in the baseball season. Then at 6 p.m., who do we have?
We have Ari. I'm going to butcher his last name, so I'll get back to you once I have a better pronunciation. But he's the founder of BeyondYouSports.com, which is one of the biggest college sports blogs. It has had over 1 million views the past month, I believe. It's very well known now. A lot of people are looking at it. This is where he got it. He actually left the radio sector. He used to work for Sirius XM as their producer, for their college sports producer. So he has a very, very good background in sports, and I'm sure has done a lot of great interviews over the time because he was in charge of the radio for probably the biggest radio network in the States. So that should be great. And I actually started writing for Beyond You Sports, so that'll be even more fun to talk to him about everything. Right.
Okay, cool. Then what we're going to do at 6:30, a big fan of the fans of Israel Sports Radio, Andy Dorf from Dorf on Sports, the ESPN affiliate in Arizona, out in Phoenix, AZ. He is right now on KFNX, so check him out if you're listening in Phoenix. I believe it's 11:60 a.m. We'll double check with Dorf at 6:30. So he's going to come out and break down the Final Four. He was on our title game Final Four special last year, so I wanted to keep the tradition and have him on again. It was a big fun show with Tom Weiss and company. And then at 6:45, the lovely Jasmine Marcus to also break down the Final Four. So we've had Ari and Jasmine. We're going to have Andy Dorf to talk a lot of college basketball before the big games Saturday night. Well, here in Israel, Saturday evening
Sunday
in the States.
Morning.
And then, again, the games will be on 1 in the morning and 4 in the morning approximately
3:45, right,
here in Israel. And then the championship game is on Monday. A lot of people think right now it's Kentucky and Ohio in the title game, but we'll see what Dorf thinks about all of that stuff. Let's get to a couple of news before I bring on Barry. Akar says, Magic Johnson purchased the Los Angeles Dodgers for $200 billion.
No, $2 billion.
Excuse me, $2 billion. Sorry, $2 billion. $200 billion too much. I knew that came out wrong as soon as it left my mouth. $2 billion in cash. So Magic, the entrepreneur, as they say in business dealings, he purchased the Dodgers, and Jim Williams likes to move a lot. We talked to him yesterday. I agree, because the courts were just a disaster with all their scandal, divorce, all that kind of stuff,
right.
bankruptcy, everything. And now Magic's going to come and bail the Dodgers out. The Dodgers have Kemp, who could have won the MVP. Ryan Braun
Probably,
won it, but
right.
Kemp had better numbers, Matt Kemp. And the Cy Young winner, and Clayton Bradshaw. So they have some pieces to work around. Their team was last place last year.
Yeah, which was very not Dodger-like.
Yeah, not Dodger-like. The Dodgers in this previous decade, but were in the postseason a few times. Took out the Phillies a couple of those times.
When Manny was having a couple of good seasons.
Yeah, Manny Ramirez took out the Cardinals in the first round of the playoffs a few years ago. That was back when Matt Holliday made that error. This is way back in 2010, not too long ago, but people forget because the Cardinals won the World Series last year. But Holliday makes that, 2009. Holliday makes that error in Dodger Stadium, and the Dodgers win that series, take on the Phillies, and the Phillies beat them and go on to the World Series and go on to win it. They beat the Rays that year. So the Dodgers, though, have some potential. Wasn't too long ago they were a competitive ball club, and I like this move of Magic by the team. Doesn't mean they'll win the World Series this year, but they have some good pieces to work around. A lot of people are going to want to work with Magic Johnson. Part of the reason why Peyton Manning went to the Denver Broncos is because John Elway is there.
Right.
Don't mistake that. So you're going to have a couple of baseball players that grew up watching Magic Johnson, liked him, maybe played basketball in high school or college, want to be around Magic, and that contagious smile. I mean, he just has one of those magic smiles. It's magical. It truly is. It's a beautiful smile to look at, and a lot of players are going to want to gravitate towards it. So I think this was a genius move for Magic to get the Dodgers. Other sports news, Parcells is quoted as saying he'd be a hypocrite not to check out the Saints job. I don't know what he means by that.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
I don't know if it's being a hypocrite or not. I don't get that at all.
It's just Bill being Bill, I guess.
It's all the psychology games. We played some of those yesterday, so I don't know what the heck he is thinking. But in any case, that's what his point is at this point. So
then we also had we have kind of some drama going on in Lakerland with Kobe Bryant being benched a couple days ago, and also Bynum was benched 2 nights ago. And he shot up in the third quarter. He took a 3-pointer. He was open, but he is a center. He's not a shooting guard, and he missed the shot badly. And Coach Mike Brown decided to bench him, and you could see Bynum was just kind of smiling away the rest of the game, and it really cost them. It didn't cost them the game, but it was just. I agree with Brown. It was a really dumb shot, and then he didn't take it serious that he was benched. He just was laughing around. Then Kobe actually supported Bynum after the game. So things might be getting a little
chippy out
there. Though there's still a 3 seed, believe it or not. The Clippers are not even in the playoffs right now. I think they're a 9 seed. So, I mean, a 3 seed's not bad for this team when they've had all the distractions they've had with Odom and Powell being rumored to be traded all year. So I think they're doing a pretty decent job. The West isn't as strong this year as it usually is, to be honest. Like the Thunder and the Spurs are really dominating the West, which is weird. Isn't the Spurs are still dominating the West?
Yeah, there's a few years ago.
Kind of weird.
I mistakenly picked the Spurs to miss the postseason. It was kind of an accident. When I went through my top 8 seeds, I was listing the teams, forgot the Spurs, and then afterwards kind of acted like I did that on purpose, and then they were the 1 seed that year. But they did get knocked out of the first round.
Right.
This is last season, so I didn't look so bad. But yeah, the Spurs seem to hang around. It's kind of like Mariano Rivera. You keep thinking this is their last year, and it's not.
Right. Well, what they're doing is they've been adding talent to that team. They just got Steven Jackson back, who was on that 2003 team before he ended up going everywhere, it seems like the Pacers, Charlotte, Golden State, everywhere. But they got Steven Jackson back. They also have Neal, who's a great guard who was undrafted. And, people don't realize Tony Parker is only 29. He got drafted when he was 19. Maybe he's 30 right now. I'm not sure. But Tim Duncan is old and his production has gone down, but he's still probably going to get you 15 points and 8 to 10 rebounds a game. And also Ginobili, when he's on, he's on. So And of course, they're coached by Greg Popovich, which I think is the best coach in the NBA right now by far.
Yeah,
Once Phil left, there's no one even close to Popovich. I'm trying to even think right now of who's number 2, and I really can't even think of someone that
I'm trying to think myself here. Let's see.
It's not. I mean, if you look at guys in the league right now, there are not a lot of proven coaches. I mean, Jerry Sloan's gone too now. A lot of those old guys are gone. It's
Pat Riley's not coaching.
Pat Riley is not coaching. Let's look at this way. The top teams in the league this year. This is a better way to look at it. The top teams in this league this year are all coached by young guys. Eric Spoelstra for the Heat is 40, I think, 42. Mike Brown is also not that old, and I wouldn't call him a very. I mean, he had good years with the Cavs, but
went to the NBA Finals.
Has not won in Boston. In Boston they have
Doc Rivers.
Yeah, but still,
Doc is not good as Greg Popovich, but he's pretty good.
Right, but he's not even close. He was on those Celtics teams that went 20-60 before the Big Three came. So I wouldn't. In Chicago, it's his second year coach Thibodeau or Tom Thibodeau. I can't ever pronounce it. And just looking around.
Isn't he the reigning coach of the year though?
He is.
That doesn't always mean anything.
Right. No, he is. Like, they're very good coaches, but the key is they're young and they're new. Popovich is really
well established.
First championship in 99.
Right. Won in 03, 05, and 07. Has 4 titles.
It's been a while, but you never know. I mean, they draft well as well. They draft Europe very well, as you know, with Parker. I guess Ginobili's not Europe because he's from South America, but still, let's say they draft well internationally, and it's San Antonio. So when you think about getting drafted to San Antonio, your first initial thought is, where is San Antonio and what is there to do there?
Smallest market in the NBA, by the way.
Right. San Antonio and Sacramento. Well, the thing that's weird, you say it's the smallest market, but it's actually one of the top 10 biggest cities in the U.S. But, yeah, it is one of the smallest markets just because there's nothing there. They have no professional teams besides San Antonio Spurs. They have a AAA baseball team. But
So, and I'll tell you, I remember in 1999, it was very funny because they went to the NBA Finals against the New York Knicks, and the Knicks were the number 1 seed, and the Spurs were, the Knicks were the 8 seed, the Spurs were the 1 seed, but the Knicks were number 1 in payroll, and the Spurs were last in payroll. Duncan, that was his second year, so they did not have to pay him a lot of money, even though he was probably the best player in the NBA.
Right. I think Allen Houston was still, maybe that was his last year. He was on the payroll back then. Who knows? The Knicks. Speaking of the Knicks, real quick before we call Barry Bloom from MLB.com, the Knicks thrashed last night. They played Orlando. Excuse me, I just forgot for a second. They won, I think, by 25 points. Carmelo played well. Big news in New York: Amari Stoudemire's out for 2 to 4 weeks. That's great news actually for the Knicks fans because it was initially it was supposed to be the year. So going from the season to 4 weeks is huge. Pretty much what that means is that they'll probably rest him until the playoffs. They'll probably be 8-7 seed unless they go on some crazy run, meaning they'll play the Bulls or the Heat, meaning they'll probably lose in the first round. To be honest, sorry, Knicks fans.
Just keep it
maybe
real.
Next year.
All right, we're done. Barry Bloom from MLB.com, and this is live, so you'll be able to hear the rating. And this will be fun to talk to him, get his thoughts on this 2012 campaign for Major League Baseball.
Hello.
Hi, Barry. This is Ari Louis from Israel Sports Radio. You're live on the air. How you doing out there?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing great. First of all, are you in Arizona right now?
Yes.
That's great because I grew up in Arizona, so spring weather is obviously a wonderful time in AZ, and you're right in the thick of the Cactus League out there. Who has so far kind of surprised you in spring trading out in Arizona?
Well, I really try not to let what happens during spring training skew my view of a lot of these teams. I try to take a long view on it. Last year specifically, there were 4 teams out here that looked terrific: the White Sox, the Rockies, the Giants are among them. They all played terrible during the year. The Diamondbacks and Indians looked bad here. They wound up. Diamondbacks won the division. Indians had a great first half of the season. You just don't know. With the light here, air here, the fields, you don't use pitching staffs the way you do, particularly bullpens in spring training the way you do during the regular season. So it's hard. I mean, like a team like Texas, which is two-time American League champion, hasn't had a great spring out here. So I think you look at really where teams are filling positions and how they are injury-wise coming into the regular season, rather than what happens, on the field. So, to me, right now, there has been no surprises out here.
And one of the things I brought this up at the top of the show, Major League Baseball season technically started because a couple of teams went to Japan, and it wasn't too long ago. The tradition was the Cincinnati Reds get the first game as they were the first team in baseball history. What happened to that tradition? Why did we change all of a sudden, in your opinion?
Well, I don't know how many years ago was that. I mean, really, we're talking about decades ago, where the Reds used to open the season. It's been a long time since baseball has been playing games internationally and opening the season internationally since I think 1999, 2000. They opened down in Mexico in Monterrey with the Rockies playing the Padres, and they've played in Puerto Rico. They've played. This is, I think, the fourth time in Japan. So it's been a long time since the Reds have had ownership of that.
All right, well said. Moving on now, the Cardinals are the defending champions, but a lot of people, because Albert Pujols is gone and no more Tony La Russa, think they won't be the defending champions this year at least. Who is the favorite, you think, to take the World Series crown?
Well, I think it's hard. The dominant teams are all in the American League. That being said, the National League has won the last two World Series because the Giants came out of nowhere and had a great 2 months in September and October of 2010 and won their only World Series since 1954. And then last year, the Rangers were one strike away of beating the Cardinals twice in Game 6 in St. Louis, and St. Louis wound up pulling the game out and winning the World Series. So it was kind of an anomaly. But if you look at the way baseball is skewed right now by the salaries and where players have signed, the Yankees, the Tigers, the Rangers, and the Angels are the four best teams right now coming into the season in Major League Baseball. And then right below them, you have the Rangers, and if I hadn't mentioned them, and you've got the Red Sox and the Rays, a coming Blue Jays team that's coming, and the National League is just wide open because the Phillies are going into the season without the right side of their infield. Utley and Howard are out. Their starting pitching is still very good, but they've got Jonathan Papelbon as their new closer. We'll see how that works. And their offense, which has been good over the course of 5 years as they've won 5 Eastern titles in a row, is not as good as it used to be. So to me, the National League is wide open, particularly with Florida having beefed up and the Dodgers now being sold to the Magic Johnson Group with $2 billion worth of sale price. Revenue is going to pick up there. There's going to be infusion into that team. And there's just been a lot of television money being spent over in the American League that has really enhanced, the Texans and the Angels right now. So among those 5 teams, it depends on how it breaks in the American League. But for the long run, I'd probably pick the Yankees because the Yankees they're very deep. They've got a great mixture of young talent and their older guys. You've got, with Pettit re-signing, you've got the core 3 of the 4 back together, with Posada having retired, and they all seem to have something left. Then you have the younger veterans. You've got Teixeira and Sabathia, who were signed as free agents a few years ago, who are still middle-range veterans at this point. You've got Cano, who's still a kid, and Gardner is a kid. Good, very strong behind the plate and very deep, and 6 starters, plus a great bullpen. So I think if the Yankees stay healthy, they're going to win the East, and they're going to be very hard to beat, and I'll pick them right now for the World Series. And disclosing that, I grew up in New York, 10 minutes from Yankee Stadium, so I'm still a big Yankee fan.
Okay, hi, Barry, on with Rafael. Thank you again for joining us. It's great to have someone on. We've really been focusing on NBA and especially college basketball. We've had a lot of guys from different college basketball publications, but it's our first MLB guy, so thank you for being that first guy.
Oh, my pleasure. It's great to be on.
And good morning to you in Phoenix, I believe.
How's your boy Kesby doing?
He is not having a...
He's a glorified bench player,
Yeah,
Barry. There's just no way to say it.
He's been starting. Let's not hate.
But he gets less minutes than the bench players.
Yeah, it's true. But he's no hating on Casper. He represents us. But back to the baseball world. My family, I'm originally Israeli, but a lot of my family's in Toronto. So actually, before we get to that, big news out of New York. Jabba Chamberlain is coming back from that horrible Tommy John surgery and, decides I'm going to have some fun with my kid and I'm going to go outside and go on the trampoline. But what happens is from what I hear, the gruesome details are that his bone dislocated in his ankle. He had surgery. Coach Girardi went to visit him. He's out of the hospital now. He's in a cast for 4 to 6 weeks. But it appears he's going to miss most of the season. Like I mentioned, I'm a Blue Jay fan, but I also respect players, and this is just a horrible thing to hear after coming back from Tommy John to have to deal with this gruesome kind of ankle injury. What are your thoughts about all this?
First of all, because Chamberlain is coming back from surgery on his arm,
right?
He had Tommy John surgery. They weren't counting on him for at least June or July anyway.
Okay.
So he's not really in the mix. They've got a really good bullpen, as I was mentioning,
right.
Anyway, with, Rivera, Soriano, Robertson, who emerged last year. They've got a couple of other, middle inning relievers out there. Plus, you're going to probably have a guy like Freddie Garcia in the bullpen because they've got to have 5 starters. They're not going to go with 6. And they've got, unless, Michael Pineda, who they pick up from Seattle, is not good, and they wind up sending him down to the minors, or Nova regresses. They're in a situation where, they're just very deep pitching-wise. And, Jabba's just not the brightest light on the planet. There's always been problems with him, whether it was a DUI a couple of years ago. And I always thought that the Yankees just screwed him up royally anyway, because he was a lights-out setup guy as a rookie for Rivera, and everybody thought that he might be the next Rivera when Rivera retired. And then they decided to turn him into a starter. That didn't work. It really screwed him up. And then when he went back to the bullpen before he even got hurt, he wasn't very good. So whatever happens for the long term with Job, this is a reclamation project that goes well beyond him breaking his ankle on a trampoline.
Right, and I remember when he was in college at Nebraska, I believe, there was so much hype about him, and he hasn't really lived up to that hype. Anyway, you actually mentioned the Blue Jays earlier. This team has been, I listen to the Toronto media all the time. I go there every summer. The media there has kind of been waiting for this team to break out. They've just been able to finish 500. They have a lot of great young pieces in the starting pitching staff that a lot of people don't know about. Maybe they do know about after Brandon Morrow's 17th strikeout, 1 hitter game. But even a lot of guys, Dustin McGowan's coming back from a lot of problems that he had. But I remember he was great a couple of years ago. And, of course, Ricky Mario. And their infield's even getting better. They have a young catcher, Snyder in the outfield. Do you think this could be the year? I don't want to say playoffs just because it's too tough in the AL East, but just maybe, let's say, will the Jays get to 90 wins, maybe 92 wins? Is that possible this year?
Well, you're also leaving out, what they did to rebuild the bullpen, which I think
Fraser.
was the most essential part of it.
Right.
Because now they've got three guys over there who can close and set up.
Mm-hmm.
And I was down there in Florida the first week of spring training, so that it's a while ago already. But going to their camp and the Yankees and the Red Sox, I definitely get the feeling that with this enhanced playoff format in Major League Baseball this year in the second wild card, that now you have an opportunity opened up for a second or a third team in the AL East to go to the playoffs, even if it's just a one-game play-in, and then you roll your dice and you figure what happens after that. And the Red Sox, to me, this is the one season after what happened last year and the changeover from Terry Francona to Bobby Valentine. This is a team that doesn't really have a shortstop, doesn't have a right fielder, doesn't have a fourth and fifth starter. Andrew Bailey is now their closer. There's a lot of problems there for a team that's guaranteed $400 million to 8 or 9 players over the next 6-7 years. Plus, Masazaka, he's out, still under contract.
Right.
Carl Crawford's not starting this season because of this wrist injury.
Wrist surgery, right.
So if there's going to be a year, I think, the Rays are always stable because the Rays have such good pitching, and they've invested a little bit of money, bringing Pena back and trying to shore up their offense. But I think the Blue Jays are ready to emerge, and I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility that both the wild card teams could come out of East,
right,
and that this year that the Blue Jays could go by the Red Sox.
Wow, okay, that's great stuff there. A lot of people are talking about the return of Strasburg. I know he's struggled a little in the spring, but you know what? I'm not even going to ask about Strasburg. I'm going to ask about the new guy in town for the Nationals. Do you have? Could you give us maybe the inside scoop on when Bryce Harper will be called up? I think he was already optioned to AAA or AA. I'm sure you would know all that kind of stuff. Could you just let our listeners know when they should expect to have Harper in the lineup in Washington?
Yeah, I think what they did was because they rushed Strasburg up, they're going to really take their time with Harper. There's no reason. He's younger, too. I mean, Harper is a high school player. Strasburg came out of college, so he was a lot older and more developed. And even so, he wound up breaking down his first year and having to go through Tommy John surgery. So I think his struggles this spring are really more connected with, coming back from the injury, settling back in. And again, what I said is, you can't rely too much on numbers in either the Grapefruit League or the Cactus League during the spring. It's when he starts the season, let's see how good he is and how erratic he is with the, with his fastball. Because if he can throw the ball over the plate with the velocity that he had been throwing it, and consistently, Strasburg is going to be fine. But Harper, I really don't think, unless they have some serious injuries, they've got a pretty good team. And I think Harper, you're looking at maybe the middle of the year or beyond, and I don't think it's really beyond the realm of possibility that he spends the second year in the minor leagues, because there's no reason for him not to at this point. I don't think the Nationals are going to contend this year. I think they're probably still a year or two away. Plus, they have a 160-inning limit on Strasburg.
Right.
And they assure that, they're not going to bottle that up and parse that out over the course of the season. He's going to pitch full complement of games. And when he gets to 160 innings, even if they're in a playoff run in September, they're going to shut him down. But they have Jordan Zimmerman. They've got Gio Gonzalez now in that trade. I mean, this is a team that's really coming. The question is, with Florida having signed the guys they did, and with the Phillies still being fairly dominant, is this the year that they're going to creep up? But like I said about the double wild card, it gives all these teams, and since the National League is more wide open, it gives a team like the Nationals the possibility of taking that second wild card spot where they wouldn't in the past. And you're going to see a lot of teams do things differently in September and late August this year. And if it's in mid-August and they're in the run for one of those wild card spots, you might see Harper up before September 1st.
All right, Barry, that is great analysis. We'd love to have you on to talk to you more today, but we have to move on to another guest. But could we do it again soon, have you back on the program?
Anytime. Just consider me to be your regular MLB guy whenever you need me.
Absolutely. That sounds great.
That.
All right, Barry, enjoy Arizona, enjoy the weather. Enjoy it for me because I miss it, and we appreciate the time, and we'll be in touch very shortly.
Great. Thanks for having me on. It's my pleasure.
Have
Absolutely.
a great day.
Oh, happy birthday.
No, have a great day.
Oh, have a great day. I'm sorry. Have a great day. Have a great day, Barry.
Yeah, you too.
Bye. I was like, his birthday. I'm like, okay.
No, it was my bad.
I know I have a birthday. All right, that was Barry Bloom,
That was great.
Israel Sports Radio's MLB insider, and from MLB.com.
Starting now.
Yeah, starting right now. He just told us he is, so he gets it. We're not going to really argue with Mr. Bloom. So you heard that analysis, that second wild card. I forgot about it. I know they announced that. But
huge thing in baseball.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, the way it
changes.
works is what used to be was 3 division winners and a wild card in. Now they have 2 wild cards. They'll play against each other in a 1-game playoff. Then the winner gets the regular wild card spot. So that for those of you out there who thought, hey, my team deserved to make the playoffs, but they got stuck in a tough division or whatever, kind of like the Blue Jays, they're now going to have an opportunity to go to the playoffs. All right, we're going to dial up our next guest, the quarterback of the Tel Aviv Pioneers. Of course, it's live radio, so he has to pick up, but it's rating. And this has been promoted a lot throughout Facebook and the IFL. And it's going to be a great game tomorrow. We're looking forward out there to Kraft Family Stadium.
Hello.
Hi, Itai. This is Ari Louis with Israel Sports Radio. You're live on the air. How you doing out there?
Hey, Ari. What's up?
Hey, Itai. It's great to talk to you, and it's been too long. And before we begin, congratulations on the victory in the semifinals game against your old team, and you're in the championship once again. Talk about the difference. The first time the Lions play the Pioneers, they won pretty big in a blowout win, and then you guys returned the favor and blew them out. So what was the difference? How were you guys able to make that turnaround?
First, thank you for the compliments, and we hope to succeed tomorrow morning. And about the game, look, I think both teams is going to be a different game. We got a lot of key guys that were missing in that game. We got our center that was gone. We got a couple of defensive guys that weren't playing in the first game. I wasn't playing in the first game, and I think the game plan was much more well prepared in the second game for us as far as the first game, and that's it. We well executed both on offense and on defense, and that's generally why I think we stepped up and took the game.
And in that victory, again, very impressive, 66-22, had that two-headed monster in the backfield, Kobe Nimrod and number 5 Bilas. They ran great. So talk about their production and contribution to the ball club.
I think like everything, it starts with the offensive line that does a tremendous job of opening up the holes and the running lane for the backs to run, and for sure you got to give both Kobe and Ilan a lot of credit for executing the run plays, for big plays, and for scoring points. And yeah, they really stepped it up in the last couple of games of the regular season and as well in the playoffs. And I think they're doing a great job.
Now, a lot of people are curious of your physical health. If you're at 100%, 90, 85, we know you had some neck injury issues, and that's certainly tough. Peyton Manning can tell you all about that. How do you feel at this point going into tomorrow's big game?
I feel confident. Of course, I can't discuss too much what I can or cannot do.
Of course.
But yeah, definitely it's been a big issue for me personally about my health and my ability to make plays and do stuff that I usually could make, and it has been bothering me in the last couple of weeks. But I hope tomorrow morning we could do some surprises and do some stuff that will do some damage for the favors. But again, I trust my teammates 100%. So I'm not too worried about me or not me, because we got a very good team. So it's gonna be all right.
And I remember 2 years ago, you were in that very close game when you were on the Lions against the Sabres in the title game, close at the end and just a little short. I remember after the game I gave you a hug and said you'll be back. Here you are back in the title game, and you have a lot of title game experience. Not everyone on your team does. So have you talked to him this week about how it's a little different to play in front of the crowd or the cameras and on that stage Friday morning?
Yeah, that's I can remember. I actually remember that that hug and that saying. I was so disappointed after the game that we lost to the Sabres, and it was a big deal and it was a big game. But I think you're definitely right about the fact that it is a different game. Any playoff, but specifically the Israel Bowl is a different ball game. You get the sense of urgency once you hear the national anthem, and then you can feel the excitement in the air and the teammate, and yeah, it's different. But I think eventually, like I said before, I trust our guys both on defense, offense, special team. We got a lot of guys with experience. A couple of guys have been there on offense, on defense. They know the job, and I'm sure we will get the entire core ready to go. But of course, we got a pretty good opponent against us. So
yes.
The Sabres are they finished the regular season better than we did, and they won against us in the first games and pretty convincingly. So I think it's up to us to step up and show them what we can do. But for sure, it's going to be a tough game. And they also got a couple of guys over there that know and have some experience both on offense and on defense. Has been there last 2 years where they went to the Israel Bowl. So it's supposed to be a very tough game, both physically and mentally, as far as trying to knock each other out for the opponent game plan. And I think eventually will come down to execution and being tough on the field, and that's what will win the team the game.
You know, you mentioned that the Sabres had your guys' number the first two games of the regular season, but the Lions beat you guys. You were able to get return the favor. So is it that confidence saying, hey, they beat us twice, but that's the regular season. This is the playoffs. This is a whole new ball game. We're going to be different this time around. And is that kind of what's been preached in practice this week?
Yeah, definitely. I think once you got a couple of years of experience in football, then you get the sense of, I'm not saying it doesn't matter what you do in the earlier in the season, like in November, December, but eventually it really comes down to what you what kind of shape you are in February or March, and then it's actually time to step up and be the best team you can, and eventually those are the teams that reach the Israel Bowl. The two teams that are in the best shape in February and March, and not November, December. And for sure, we are not in the shape we were when we played the teams, the Sabres, in the first game of the season. It was, I think, in November, and another game in January. I don't remember exactly when it was, but again, we got a tough opponent. I mean, nobody is disrespecting them. Nobody thinks something is going to be even close to being easy. And I'm pretty sure that the same atmosphere comes on their end and their part. So. It's going to be a physical, tough team, and I think the team that's not going to lose football, neither on offense or defense or special team, the teams that are going to make a couple of big plays, which are key, because usually Israel Bowls are not, it's not a high-score game. It's usually around 25, 30-something points in the Israel Bowls that will get you the win. And play a better defense, I think that's the team that's going to win the game.
Now, also 2 years ago, when you were in the title game before that week, we had both you and Said Abilafia in studio, and Said is a friend of yours. You play against him again tomorrow. What is it like to go against your friends in the biggest game of the season?
Well, I got friends in a lot of teams, and it's the Sabres in specific. I got a couple of friends, and actually, except from Said, I got two coaches with me in the high school team, Ryan, Michael, and Gilad Shalem, that are close friends of mine. So, but again, it's not irrelevant, because on the field you do want to win, and you do everything you can to win. And I don't talk to them during the game. It doesn't matter if it's a fair mind or not. We just do what we got to do to win. before and after, yeah, so we will do everything to win, and I think and I hope we'll do that, and God forbid, but if we're not gonna win, so I'll be happy for them that they won, and they've done a tremendous job this season. So it's not really relevant to the game itself. Probably to the before and after it will be, but a bit more about these guys.
Or if anything, sometimes you want to play or beat your friends a little more than someone who's a stranger, because after the game there'll be or down the road there might be a little trash talking, so you kind of want to have that one up over them, right?
Yeah, but you know what? I'm not an old man, but I'm gonna be 33 in the next summer, so it's not about that at all. For me, it's about making the best for the team, for my team, and again, and after that, about myself and winning the game. So it's not about what play. I don't care. I care about my teammates. I care about getting the win, and and then as an organization, the pioneers of getting the final destiny. It's a friend of mine, not a friend of mine. It doesn't matter. I really don't look at it as something that should concern me, because it's football. We got to win it. We got to win the big game. I'm more focused about reaching the goal and not, the friends, not friends kind of stuff that's happening.
We're speaking with Tel Aviv Pioneers quarterback Itai Ashkenazi, who will be playing tomorrow at noon at Kraft Family Stadium. And Itai, you are a member of a Tel Aviv squad, going against a Tel Aviv squad, but you guys are playing in Jerusalem. It was somewhat talked about in some of the Facebook chats if that was fair to the Tel Aviv clubs. What is your thought about having to travel to Jerusalem to play the championship game?
Well, that is a tricky question, and I think there are a couple of things regarding that. One is nobody can deny that Kraft Stadium is the only field right now that is actually looking like a football stadium, talking about the field itself,
right,
and all the marking and everything involved. And of course, a game like that is going to be live on TV. You want to have the best site and location for TV as possible, and unfortunately, we don't have something in the Tel Aviv area like, with all due respect to the place the Sabres play or the Pioneers play, it's a soccer field, so it's not really going to be looking very well on TV. And so in that regard, I think it's a pretty good idea to play in Jerusalem. But long-term wise, and we have a couple of ideas of that, we gotta establish and raise the funds to have a football stadium in the center, if it's Tel Aviv or other places in the center. But having a football stadium there, and once we have a decent and good field that we can use, then probably in the same teams arriving to the Israel Bowl, then I would hope we will play in Tel Aviv. But until then, I think probably Jerusalem makes the most amount of sense of playing there.
Yeah, well said. That's what my comment was as well, that it's the best stadium, especially for TV. The game's on TV. You want to show the best of what we have to offer in front of casual fans.
I think probably if you do that game in the center, then maybe you can get more of, I don't know, maybe 1,000, 2,000 people more, which is nice. But again, if you want to be live on TV, and also for the fans in the stadium, then playing on a soccer field on national TV, it doesn't look the same, doesn't feel the same, So I think as long as that's the only place which is real. Close, it's not 100%, but it's 80% close to be a football field, then we should, on the big games, stick to Kraft and make the most out of it.
Yeah, again, well said. I think at this point, this is what we got to do, is have it at Kraft. All right, Itai, last question for you. Tell us, visualize, what will it mean? Your team gets the victory tomorrow. You're the winner. You get your first Israel Bowl championship victory. Tell us what that would mean to you.
Well, I'm pretty confident in our ability to win. I'm not really good at making a final, an answer of what's going to be the score and stuff, but I'm pretty confident in my team, and we've got a pretty good ball club. And I can't imagine what would be the feeling, because I never felt it. But
right.
But I gotta say, I'm real proud of our guys, coming in. We got a lot. The season was a huge roller coaster for the Pioneers, and with everything that happened in the beginning of the year, and then with our coach, Coach Falvey, leaving us a month and a half ago, and a couple of things that happened, and so getting to the road to the final game and the way we stepped up in the last couple of games. And I'm pretty sure we're going to win it all tomorrow. But again, if God forbid not, then I'm so proud of my teammates and this organization for doing everything we've done. So I think it's going to be a disaster losing tomorrow. But anyway, long-term wise, I'm pretty excited and happy about what we've done this year.
All right. Again, well said. Itai, good luck tomorrow. I'll be there. I'll be broadcasting the game. So if we get a chance, we'll schmooze. And again, we'll see you out tomorrow, but it's going to be a lot of fun. We appreciate the time today. I know it's a busy week for you preparing for the championship game. But again, good luck tomorrow, and we'll see you tomorrow on Israel Sports Radio.
Thank you very much, Ari, and good luck, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Absolutely. Be well, Itai.
All right, take care. Bye.
All right, that was Itai Ashkenazi, who is the quarterback of the Tel Aviv Pioneers, and he just said that very well, that they had their ups and downs. If you recall, there was a lawsuit at the beginning of the year regarding the Pioneers. One of the players wanted to join the Pioneers, so that was what his reference was in the beginning, and they had the ups and downs with some of the players who wanted to join the team, their coach leave, and so on, and they are in the title game. A lot of people did not think they would beat the Lions, and I'll be honest with you, I was probably one of them. I mean, the Lions were undefeated. I don't want to say probably.
Right. I didn't expect it to happen as well.
Right.
I think it was a very big deal for the organization, as Itai mentioned, and
especially the way 66-22.
That's a thrashing.
I broadcast that game. Blowouts are always hard to broadcast, even when they were upset. When they're upsets, and when we got to the second half, I mean, the game was over. There wasn't really a lot to say except Elad. So we talked about number 5, Elad Milas, and Kobe Nimrod. They just couldn't be stopped. So
Itai's just has a lot of talent from what I've seen.
Yeah, the neck injury's been rough, but he's still been playing through and leading their team get to the title game.
Hello.
Hi, Saeed. This is Ari Louis. You're on live on Israel Sports Radio. How you doing?
Hey, Ari. How are you? Well, thank you.
Doing great, and we appreciate the time being on. You have a lot to say, obviously, so I'll let you get to it. There was something you wanted me to bring up Saturday night, but I said I'll let you do it. What do you want to say right away?
Bring on the ball.
No, but this is your third trip to the title game, and you said that if you guys win tomorrow, that you're a dynasty.
First of all, we're a dynasty just by getting there 3 years in a row. But we'll make it even more of a dynasty when we, hopefully, inshallah, will get the win tomorrow.
Okay, there's a motorcycle right by. That's cool. Now, last year you guys made the title game, and against the Rebels, you lost, but what was interesting was you were blown out in the first half, and then your coach, John Sharon, made adjustments and made the game a lot closer in the second half. You were a possession away, really, from winning it. So talk about Coach John Sharon's impact on the ball club.
Our biggest asset in the team is definitely John Sharon. He's a great coach. He's a big asset in the Sabres. Really appreciate him. He understands the game better than anyone else in the league, I believe. And he understands the players' needs, and he understands how to use certain players for certain plays. And he gives a lot of his time, even when he's off the field, for the Sabres, and everyone on the team appreciates that. And he's very committed to the team, and therefore we're such a successful team in addition to the talent that we have on the team. In addition, a lot of the talent that we have on the team is due to the fact that we have John Sharon as the coach. A lot of players, especially in the high school teams, want to continue playing for him or join a team that is coaching him.
Yeah, and it's not just, I think, what he says, but he is really good with his strategy. He's a great tactician. So, John, again, an excellent coach. Now, third title in a row, and last week, a little bit in doubt when, in the first quarter, you guys are losing to Haifa 6-0, and then you were able to turn it on and kind of blow them out in the second half. Were you worried at all when Haifa had that lead earlier in the game?
I'm never worried because I know the capabilities of the team. We had, if you recall, the game before that against Haifa, they were leading something like 18-6. Then it ended out as 46-20 against them a month ago. So we know what you can do. We're sometimes late starters. We're not morning people, you could say. And we know how to come back, and we never give up. You saw that also in the finals against Rebels last season.
Right, absolutely. Now, let's move on to the concept that it's hard to beat a team 3 times in a year. Your team beat the Pioneers twice pretty convincingly, but are you concerned that they might bring out some new things on the table tomorrow that you haven't seen before? Or you just think, hey, this will be business as usual, we beat them twice before, and we can beat them again tomorrow?
We do not expect them to play as usual. We will expect different plays and different moves. I'm sure the Pioneers are a great team, and they have good coaching staff, and Itai is back, and he didn't play much against us in the past 2 games, and we expect him to play much more tomorrow, which will give them a stronger advantage on the offense. But we're ready for everything. We're not expecting them to run alone or pass alone, and we're ready for a different array of plays.
Now, Jeremy Sable last year, I believe, was your defensive captain, and this year he's playing a lot of offense, the right guard. What is the reason for that he's playing a little more offense than defense, at least in the Haifa game, is what I saw?
You should ask him, but in general, from what I know, is that he felt that the referees were always looking out for him, so he felt that he'd get less penalties if he's on the offense than on defense.
Oh, okay. All right. Interesting take. Okay. All right, so at least we got an explanation on that. Now,
and another point, we were feeling sorry for all the injured people on the other team, so we said we'll give them a break. It's an amateur league after all.
All right. Let's now talk about this thing that's kind of brought up this week. We have 2 Tel Avivs in the finals. The first time that we haven't really had a Jerusalem team in the final, but yet the game is in Jerusalem. I asked Itai this last segment. I'll ask you, what are your thoughts? Is it a problem with you? Are you upset that you have to travel to Jerusalem to play a Tel Aviv team in the title game?
First of all, I understand that we currently have only one official football stadium, and that's in Jerusalem. But I expect and believe that we'll have another field next year, as I'm also helping Steve and Oya working on it next season. But in general, I think that it's actually better having the game at Kraft, since Kraft is contributing all this money to the league, and having the game at Kraft. I think it's unfair to the Tel Aviv teams, but as we are having 2 Tel Aviv teams right now, so we're having 2 Tel Aviv right now, so I don't think that there's a disadvantage to any team. On the other hand, there's one second.
Are you being heckled right now, Saeed?
We're sitting in a restaurant. There's like a bum inside us. It's interfering. But on the other hand, I was saying
live radio, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay. He's making us laugh. Anyway, in general, I think that if it was a Jerusalem team, it would be in a disadvantage, like in every year. And another problem tomorrow in Tel Aviv is we have the marathon, so lots of the players have to even wake up even earlier. And then there's because in order to leave the
Tel Aviv, right.
in order to get to the bus, and there's also the problem of the time change to the summer time, so we'll be losing an hour of sleep. So it would have been nicer if the game was later, but we'll live with what we have.
Okay, and that is also some news that's good to hear that they're working on a stadium out in Tel Aviv. Now, let me ask you, a lot of people have wanted to know, where is Coach Mike? We've used to seeing him with the Stanford sweater out there. Well, how come he hasn't been part of the Sabres so much this season?
Coach Mike is, I don't know if you know that, but he's in charge of the U.S. military missiles program in Israel.
Right.
And he's in the States a lot for business lately. He came back on Sunday, so he'll be there tomorrow, of course. He's a much appreciated coach from the team.
Absolutely, and one of the best handshakes I've ever had. I mean, I'm usually shaken up after shaking his hand. Okay, now let's go to this question. I know you can't have control over it, but I am curious to get your opinion on this. You guys, at this point, have 1 loss. It was against the Lions, and that was a game where Adi was ejected. Did you want to play the Lions in the title game to try to make up that loss, or to you does it not really matter? You're just happy to be in the title game?
We're happy to have the Pioneers because they're always a great adversary. They're a great team and it's fun to play against them. But a part of us wanted to have the semifinals against the Rebels in order to eject them from the playoffs. And then to have, as a finale, have the Lions and win against them the Israel Bowl.
Right. Okay. All right. Now I appreciate that honesty because that's as a competitor, you want to beat a guy that beat you. So if the opportunity swings away, then you take advantage of it. But you're not in control of who you're going to play in the playoffs, obviously. All right. I want to go to
To be
Cheese.
honest, the Lions are a great team, but given their past few games, we had no doubt that we would have beaten them.
You would have beaten the Lions.
Definitely.
Okay. Now, and I'll tell Coach Yoda to show that. All right, now let's go on to Cheeseburger. Okay, for those of you who don't know, he is the loud gentleman who's on the Tel Aviv Sabres sideline. He's not a player exactly, but he's there cheering the squad.
He's a mascot.
He's the mascot. Okay, so elaborate if you can a little bit. Cheeseburger, the mascot, he has some colorful sayings. I can't even necessarily say because it's family radio, but tell us how he pumps your team up.
He's a great guy. He's our number one fan, and he's always there and anywhere there supporting the team. He loves the game of football and loves the Sabres, and he's always says what's on his heart. And we understand that to some refs or some people, they take it personally, but he spices up everything and he makes us laugh and. He's a great support to the team.
Yeah, he's very entertaining. There's no doubt about that. We're speaking with Saeed Abilafia of the Tel Aviv Sabres. A couple more questions for Saeed before we let him prepare for the game tomorrow. Let's talk about Coach K, Larry Kinisberg. Last year, did you feel maybe his concentration was a little distracted because he was becoming he's becoming a grandfather and everything? Do you think maybe he's a little more focused now that he doesn't have to focus on that?
I didn't hear what you said. I'm sorry.
Coach K last year, of course, was becoming a grandfather. This time around, doesn't have to worry about that. So do you think that's a little easier? Coach K, Larry Kinisberg.
A father, not a grandfather.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right. Well, so in any case, he.
I would run away tomorrow. You should describe yourself once a year and call him a grandfather.
I made that joke a few times and haven't run away. But in any case, Coach K, Special K, can be focused on the business at hand with the defense. Let's move on to Adi Hakami. This guy is certainly a gamer because he is not necessarily built like your typical quarterback, built short, not wide, but he just figures out a way to get it done and win. He's only lost a couple of games in the past few years. So talk about Adi's impact to the Tel Aviv Sabres.
I have a lot of respect for Itai Ashkenazi, and Itai is a very good friend of mine. I say even more of a friend than Adi is to me. But with all due respect, Adi Hakame is the best quarterback in the league.
Wow.
And he has statistics and trophies to prove that.
Well, maybe you'll have to run tomorrow from Itai after those comments, so you never know. But no, you're supporting your teammate and Adi. It's just fun for him to watch. To see him kind of scrabble around and to hang in there. So D certainly a proven winner. All right, Saeed, last question for you. Itai, we had him on last segment. He feels confident his team's going to win. Didn't want to make a prediction of the score. I have a funny feeling you will, though. What is your prediction for tomorrow's game? And give us a score if you can, please, if you like to.
A prophecy is for fools, so I won't predict, but I'm not. I just say that we're coming with lots of confidence and we're well prepared for the game. And hopefully there'll be no surprises.
All right, well said. All right, so Saeed Abilafia, Adi, and the Zinker brothers from Arizona Pride, will be with the Sabres taking on the Pioneers tomorrow at noon. Kraft Family Stadium. Israel Sports Radio will be there. Saeed, we appreciate the time today. Say hi to Special K for me, and we'll see you tomorrow.
We call them on the team the Thinker brothers.
The Thinker or Zinker?
The Thinker brothers.
Thinker brothers. All right. Well, they certainly do some thinking. All right, Saeed, we'll see you tomorrow. Be well.
Okay. We're happy to have them. They're a great couple. And it's called the defensive line. It's called the SAS. Saeed Abilafia Zinker. So Itai, be afraid. Be very afraid.
Yeah. All right, Saeed. I'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, guys.
I was Saeed Abdelafi of the Television Sabres. What a colorful character he is. So, just to kind of recap everything was talked about, Coach K was maybe a little distracted last year, the whole being a grandfather type of thing for the first time. But this time around, doesn't have to worry about that and taking care of his grandson. And then, of course, Itai earlier. They're both very confident guys, and they both give credit to their teammates. So that's a mark of a good team. They kind of share the wealth, they share the credit, the glory. And it's obviously football is more of a team sport than in any other sport. In basketball, you can have a Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant that dominates. Baseball, you can have a dominant pitcher throw a perfect game, but you can't have that in football. Everyone's got to be together. And even if the quarterback is red hot, if his line doesn't give him time, if his receivers don't catch the ball, if his running back can't have a good running game to distract the team from going after the quarterback, you don't get play action. So they understand the importance of the team in the game of football. And again, the game tomorrow, noon at Kraft Family Stadium. Here's how you go about listening to the game. You go to our sister station, Israel Sports Network, which is isn.co.il. You go to that website and click play. It'll say on a segment to listen to live feeds, and you can hear the entire game. I will be broadcasting. I'll be the play-by-play man. I may be joined by a couple of colorful surprises that you'll have to listen to find out who they are. I hope to be joined by Johnny Joe Marticius, who should be our color commentary man. He did a great job this playoffs and postseason.
Yeah, it should be a great game for all Americans out there who aren't familiar with it. It's a kind of a new league, very competitive, as you heard from our players in the league. A lot of people take it seriously in Israel. It's getting more TV time. Some of the games are on Channel 1 Sport, which is a sports channel here, and as Ari Louis mentioned to me earlier, tomorrow's game will be on
Sports 5. Apparently,
that's a big deal. That's the biggest sports channel in Israel. This league has done a great job of growing under the leadership of Uriel
Starp. It's only in its 5th year, people.
And it's really, think about it, in 5 more years, they could have sponsors, maybe move it to semi-professional. Maybe
they have 10 teams now, and they have Kraft Family Stadium and a couple of places where they play. Like Itai said, they're really soccer fields, but they're working on a legitimate stadium in Tel Aviv. And the league just keeps growing. It's fun to be a part of, and it's fun to talk about and have these players on and watch them grow, watch them get better. A lot of these guys have not played football before they got to Israel, or if they lived here their whole life, they certainly did play it. They're picking up a football at the age of 29 and playing. But it's great to see. And they're good guys. It's a lot of fun, a lot of characters in there. So we're right now going to go on to our next guest. His name is Ari Russell.
Yeah, his name is Ari Russell Baikovsky. He is the founder of BeyondYouSports.com, which is one of the biggest college sports blogging networks. And the cool part, I think Ari will be able to discuss more with him, is he was the executive producer of college sports programming for Sirius XM Radio, which is really the biggest radio network in the country. And Ari's been doing radio, I know, for probably 10 years, 8 years, a long time.
Which Ari? That Ari?
You are.
Oh,
Ari Louis, Ari. You've been doing radio for a while.
Yeah, so
you'll have a lot of questions to ask him. He moved on now to the internet business, more of a website. He's the editor-in-chief. Just some quick facts. We'll let Ari.
Let's dial him up.
Let's dial him up.
And how do you say his last name again?
I believe just go Ari Russell.
We'll go with Ari Russell.
We're gonna
Yes.
go with Ari Russell. I'll ask him.
All right, we're dialing up right now.
Oh,
Hi, is this Ari Russell?
yes, it is.
Hi, this is Ari Louis with IsraelSportsRadio.com. How you doing out there?
I am excellent. How about yourself?
Doing great, and we were just going over your resume for the listeners listening at home on the station. One of the things I want to talk to you about is you're the executive director at Sirius.
I used to be. I used to be a
Used to be,
while.
excuse me.
I was just. I used to be the executive producer at Sirius XM Radio for the college sports slate there. I'm no longer there, but I did have a pretty good stint with Sirius XM, and before that XM Radio, before the two services merged, in launching their college sports platform. So that was a lot of fun.
Let's talk a little bit about internet radio, because we're an internet radio station, Israel Sports Radio, and we certainly hope We're the wave of the future. All the internet radio is. Seems like people are eventually going to move away from the dial. We know the Mercedes has internet radio in their car. They're usually 3 to 5 years ahead of everybody else. So do you think we'll get to a point, or when will we get to a point where everyone's listening to internet radio and the dial is obsolete, just like, who knows, eventually, the 8-track is obsolete. People are going to YouTube more and more than TV. But what is radio's progression? Where do you see it going?
Well, as far as terrestrial radio is concerned, I mean, that shelf life, it can't exist for too much longer. I mean, for instance, most of those stations are over-leveraged. They've got these huge overheads trying to maintain these towers, which really the only value to them are for crackheads getting the copper out of them. So, I mean, that's the only value these towers really have in radio. So from the terrestrial side, that is, I mean, that's just, I mean, it's pretty much sitting in hospice care. Satellite radio a little different because it's integrated in many models of cars right now, so that helps their existence. But the challenge is the satellites in the sky. They're so expensive to maintain. The thing about internet radio, which makes it more of a viable solution or more of a viable option moving forward, is like you mentioned, it's starting to be integrated more into cars right now. It's very easy to get internet radio. There's various apps out there. Even if you don't have a specific app for your particular radio show, you can go on apps like TuneIn Radio, which they operate out of Palo Alto, California. All you have to do is give them your RSS feed for your podcast or for your live stream, and you can be anywhere in the world or international, and you can go and your particular shows can be streamed. And if you have an auxiliary plug in your car, you can just plug in your iPhone, your Droid, or whatever it is that you have, and you can play the radio on there. So the customization and the specialization of content now on the radio, audio content, is really what the future is. And now people have more of a choice, more options to choose from, more specialization of whatever their interests may be. So I think that it is the wave of the future. It's currently starting to integrate more into cars. Like Ford also has a console now where you can actually, the Wi-Fi connection through your phone can work directly onto the console. So I think the change is already taking place. It's only a matter of time before internet radio really starts to, perform at a higher level. So where you guys stand right now, it's a great place to be. It's always good to be on the ground floor. I was on the ground floor on an innovative technology at Sirius XM back in 2001. It's a lot of fun when you're early. The early adapters are usually the most vociferous of your fan bases or of your followership, and then it's harnessing and growing bigger. So you really have to dream big, but at the same time, understand that the audience that is there from the beginning are the ones that are really going to help push where you guys want to go.
All right, that was a beautiful answer. Would you mind if I use that as a promo or commercial to potential people who will fund me?
That's okay. You guys will receive an invoice now. I'm just kidding. Yeah, of course, man. It's your guys' radio outlet. Do whatever you want.
That was great. It's good to know, because sometimes people might think, "Hey, you're insane for going to internet radio," and I'm saying, no. This eventually, everyone will have internet radio. Just like, I mean, people who study broadcasting know this, that back in the day, AM was the thing, and salesmen would sell airtime and throw in FM as the side, and then FM took over. And it's a natural progression that eventually there'll be something else that comes along. And right now, it's internet radio. But Ari, I'm going to let my co-host ask you a couple questions, but chopping at the bit. Raphael, take it away.
Hey, Ari, how you doing out there?
Good, man. I'm doing well, man. How's it going, Raphael?
Great. It's really great to have you on the show. And like Ari said, that was an amazing answer. I was just kind of sitting here with my jaw dropped after you said that answer. So we appreciate you giving a shout out to internet radio. But I want you to tell our listeners right now a little bit more about what you're working on right now. For our listeners out there, Ari is the founder and editor-in-chief of Beyond You Sports, which is, actually, I'll let you tell our listeners everything about that.
Well, BeyondYouSports.com is on your interwebs. It's right now it's a college sports site. Well, that's the focus of it. We focus on college sports in America right now. And, it's pretty much, I'm really trying to tap into more of the fan base, more of the fan interactivity, the pulse and the heartbeat of the fan of college sports. Now, for those that don't know, college sports has such a passionate fan base. And I know pro sports and are more, they generate, especially the NFL, they generate ridiculous amounts of revenue. You know, college sports isn't quite at the level of the NFL. College football isn't at the level of the NFL. But there is a certain level of passion amongst college sports fans. Like, you talk to an Alabama fan or a Tennessee fan, and the amount of passion that those particular fans have for their schools is just, you can't even explain it. It is inexplicable. I mean, it's a religion, especially college football. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to really tap into that passion that the college sports fans have. Right now, we're at the early stages of development. We're still a website, a lot of blogging going on. We have about 30 plus contributors on the site. Raphael you just started writing for our site, so and you did a great job with your Tom Crean piece. Thought it was a great perspective.
Thank you very much.
But what we're really trying to do right now is, I've been doing sports media for a long time, right? And I've always felt like an outsider when I go to the press boxes and the press areas. I never felt like I really fit in. And I've been thinking over the past couple of years of why haven't I always felt like I fit in? And I always thought to myself that I'm more of a fan than I am of a media person. I always have been a fan of sports. And what happens is that the media guys, they take for granted their position sometimes, I think. They take for granted the fact that they get these crazy accesses to these games, courtside seats to huge events from national championships to Final Fours, which most fans out there, they would die to have that. And I think what is often forgotten within the media is that they forget what it is to be a fan. And what happens is there's a disconnection between the media and the fan. And the media is often telling the fan what they ought to think. And there's a huge gap. What does the fan think? Why does it matter? It matters because without the fan, none of these events would have any meaning. It's the fans that make these events, because it's the fans that drive the passion. And if we don't tap into that passion, we're not really giving an opportunity for the fans to speak out and have a voice. And unfortunately, most mainstream places do not do that. They separate themselves. They put themselves, and I always say this, they say it's easy for someone in the media to criticize whatever's going on in college sports from a climate-controlled press box with free hot dogs at halftime. Your average fan doesn't get that experience. They're out in the elements. They got to pay for their hot dogs at premium prices, yet they're still showing up to the games. Why? Because it isn't about the media. It's about the action on the field. What do we do, and how do we tap into what the fans are thinking? How do we do that? Well, we get college students to talk about it. They're fans. And I always tell my contributors, I say, don't talk like a media person. Don't think like a media person. Think like a fan. What does the fan think? And I think that's missing in the media today. The fans are often ignored, marginalized, and if it weren't for the fans, these people wouldn't have their job. Simple and plain. No one's really, how many people are covering field hockey? There's a reason. There aren't as many fans for field hockey as they are for college football or college basketball. The national media isn't going to field hockey games unless a crazy brawl breaks out and someone gets shot, or something sensational happens. It's all about fan-driven. All this stuff is fan-driven. And then another aspect that I think what is missing, and what I try to do, is I think that the media also, especially when it comes to college sports, they're always skimming on the mundane. They're always talking about like college sports is filled with a lot of controversy and a lot of scandal. They're always skimming on like the guy that gets caught out. And I've written an article about this before. I attributed the NCAA and how they govern. I attribute it to how we prosecute drugs in the United States, where we don't go after the kingpin. Never gets arrested. We always talk about the hustler on the corner, the guy that is making probably nothing, and always is the one, and always is the one that it's not even the hustler on the corner. It's the junkie that gets arrested. And this is my parallel, is that the NCAA and the media that covers it is always talking about the small guy, the athlete getting busted. But what about the system as a whole that is designed for the athlete to get busted? And that's what the problem is. And no one in the media talks about that. They always talk about the Nevin Shapiro scandal or what happened with, UNC, or what happened with, Tennessee and Bruce Pearl. They always talk about that. They never talk about the overlying effects and the issues and the hypocrisy with the NCAA and the BCS. It's always on the small level stuff. And that really, I think, gets under the fan's skin as well, because every fan knows that this game is crooked. They all know that it's from the NCAA that it's crooked, and they're sick and tired of getting shoved down their throat, all these stupid sanctions that come in and the same stories repeated, and the media is not really doing their job in uncovering what the real villain is in the NCAA. It's a fundamental issue, and it's something that I write about all the time on our site. And I advise anyone that is a contributor on our site, if they have an opinion on the matter, write about it. And if you're a fan, complain about it. It's an open forum, and I'm passionate about that issue because I love college sports. I know it's corrupt. I'm sick and tired of seeing the media always going after the small guy. They never have the guts to go after the big guy, yet they have the access and the ability to, because I think they're afraid of losing that climate control and those free hot dogs at halftime.
Wow, it's very interesting actually that you point this out, Ari, because Ari and I had a great talk about this yesterday with Jim Williams from the Washington Examiner. We were kind of looking in at the whole issue of Coach Frank Martin made those comments this weekend about why don't college players get paid when the universities are making millions and millions of dollars and some of the college players are struggling. Yeah, they do get the charter flights to the games, and yeah, they do get the cool uniforms and all that stuff. But, after the season and the summer, they're back at home. Some of them come with no money. Well, when they're producing for these universities, the universities are just grabbing the millions, and that's it. So that's the very interesting point you made. Jim Williams said that he also he pretty much was saying the same thing as you. He believes there's a huge problem in the NCAA, and they're very greedy with their money, and they just want more and more and more. It never seems to be enough for them. They just signed, I think, a multi-billion-dollar deal to broadcast the NCAA tournament this year with TBS and CBS and all those TV stations. So great stuff there. I could talk about this with you for a long, long time, but unfortunately we only have about 10 minutes left. So let's actually get to some sports that's going on right now. Before we get to the Final Four, I just want to talk about some stuff going on around the world in college basketball. It was just reported a couple hours ago that Illinois has a new head basketball coach, which is great news for the Illini fan, especially after they were rejected twice. What do you think that the new coach will bring to the program? That is John Gross from Ohio, who was an assistant for Ohio State from 2004 to 2008, was also at Xavier and was also at Butler. So he's been everywhere. He was with Thad Matta for a long time. He brought in Odin and Conley. What do you think he's going to bring to this Illini program?
Well, I mean, clearly when you go under a guy, when you're, an important recruiter, right-hand man for a guy like Thad Matta, who's had, exorbitant success at every stop, Butler, Xavier, he's kind of followed Thad Matta's, path and skated off on his own with Ohio and has had great success in Ohio, obviously a Sweet 16 this year, almost beat North Carolina. And also a couple years ago, they did knock off a Georgetown team, and he's had success in the tournament. He's done great in the MAC, which is it's a decent mid-major that's had success in the tournament. People forget Kent State went to the Elite Eight one year with Stan Heath as the head coach.
2002.
They've had some good teams in the past. And like I said, under the tutelage of Pat Matta, he obviously understands the Big Ten. So that's a good matchup. Illinois, I know people said it's a great program. It is. It has history, but it's not a blue blood. It's not at the levels of Michigan State or Ohio State. Bill Self was there before. Obviously Bruce Weber took them to the championship game where they lost to North Carolina. They've been to Final Fours before, 1989, I believe, when Lou Henson was the head coach. They've had success there. Weber had success there too, usually making the tournaments, obviously. Ran out of favor at the end. Can this guy do a good job? I think so. I mean, his track record's good at the mid-major level. It might not be the sexy pick up front, but he did have success this year, which put him, kind of on the more elite list of mid-major coaches. Since he knows the conference, I think he'll do well. He knows how to recruit. The expectations are a little bit high at Illinois, sometimes a little bit too high, I think. But I think this guy's going to do a good job, and we'll see. Bruce Weber did a good job too. He just fell out of favor. So Grossi just has to do a little bit better than Weber, win a couple more tournament games. But we see he's a good tournament coach. He's good at preparing, so that's important. So I think he'll do a good job at Illinois.
Right, and I think I was doing some research on this guy. One of the most interesting things about him that people might not realize is that year where they beat Georgetown, they finished the regular season in the MAC in 9th place and won the conference tournament. So that just shows. I mean, they struggled throughout the regular season, but if the coach could get them in that tournament mode and say, you know what, guys, we win, I think probably four games since they were 9th seeded. If we can win 4 games, we can be in the tournament. We can beat anyone. Of course, that year they had Armand Bassett, who was really a star guard
from Indiana.
Of course, Calvin Sampson just ruined all that team. And if you look at teams around the country, there are a lot of guys that went to different clubs that were in the NCAA tournament this year. Jordan Crawford now is in the NBA with the Wizards, but he was on Xavier. Eli Holman with Detroit. There's so many names that I happened to. And it's sad what happened there. But, so I think that Ohio lost a great coach. Illinois gained a great coach. Speaking of all that, I just want to get your thoughts a little about what happened to Illinois before they got Coach Gross. Of course, Coach Stevens and Coach Smart were not so eager to leave their respectable clubs and go to Illinois. I had Israel Sports Radio had the pleasure of interviewing Brad Coach Stevens on 2 days ago, and after I talked to him, it was about 20 minutes, I really understood why he was so comfortable at Butler and why I really believe that he's maybe not that he's never going to go, but it's going to need to be something like Kentucky maybe in 15 years or Indiana when Crean leaves or UCLA, because he is so comfortable at Butler, and he is so thankful to Coach Thad Matta for hiring him just as a volunteer. Why do you think that those two guys, also Coach Smart from BC, why do you think that they're so comfortable where they are, and why do you think they said no really immediately to Illinois?
Well, why should they leave their programs? I mean, both are being compensated pretty well. They have a significant amount of autonomy in their current positions. If they were to take more money, there's a sacrifice, especially at a school like that, where you're going to come in and you're going to lose some of your autonomy. You're going to be paid a lot of money, right? And what's going to happen is that they're going to say, you're getting paid a lot. The pressure is on. You don't have the autonomy that you do because you leave your current – there's a difference between taking money for them to retain you and jumping at the gun for someone else offering you more money. There's a huge difference. The retaining puts you in a position of power. The jumping to another opportunity that there's more money isn't really a position of power. It's more of a position of weakness, because what happens is that you left the situation to go to a bigger situation. Those people know that you left the situation for a bigger situation, and those that are involved in that decision-making to hire you and to offer you that money are going to have a certain leverage over you. It's a simple business decision. They know that you jump because they offer is better. So they know from that psychological standpoint that they have that leverage over you. When that happens, you don't have as much control over your destiny, especially at these high-pressure positions. Places like Butler, Stevens is getting significantly. He's brought in so much money for that school. He's been compensated greatly. He loves it right there. There's no pressure for him to do anything right now. He's already beyond. He's pretty much stamped himself there permanently, and he can do whatever he wants at that school. He owns it.
Right.
So why should he leave? Shaka Smart is the same thing, same way. Not quite at the level of Stevens yet, but his success there at VCU has proven that the school is willing to commit $4 million or whatever it is a year. That's a significant amount for VCU. I mean, he's one of the higher paid coaches in the country, not just at mid majors, at any school. So why would he go jump to take $600,000, maybe $1 million more at Illinois, when he loses that leverage, that comfortability? He has to uproot his entire family to move to a different location, where in 3 to 5 years he could be gone. At VCU, he knows right now he's not going anywhere anytime soon. He's signed for 6-7 years. That stability, especially in this economy right now, is extremely important. Why should he take a chance for a challenge? It's challenging enough to win college basketball games anyway. So if he can make a decent living, being comfortable, and have autonomy, money doesn't always money isn't always the answer. Everyone assumes that people always take the money. And now we saw Mark Few. He's kind of the first coach that people have stopped even asking him. He was offered all types of positions in the past. He stuck around at Gonzaga because Gonzaga paid up some money. He's comfortable there, and he feels that it's challenging enough to win in that conference, and it is. But he has a proven track record.
Right.
Stevens is the next guy.
Right.
Proven track record at Butler.
And
and now Shaka Smart's third in line. So you're going to start seeing more and more of this. The more success these guys have at schools where they take teams deep in the tournament, and the people shell out the money for them.
And also, Smart was an assistant under Billy Donovan, and Stevens is all he's ever known is Indiana basketball. Just he grew up in Indianapolis, Zionsville, went to college in DePauw, then worked in Indianapolis at Eli Lilly, and now he's at Butler. So after talking to him, I just really see him maybe building up his own legacy at Butler. And Indiana has been searching for a coach like that since Coach Katie and Coach Knight left. There hasn't really been anyone like that. Painter's been at Purdue for a while, but I would never, ever give him any sort of credit to what those two guys accomplished. Real quick, I just want to talk about potentially next year's College Player of the Year. Shabazz Muhammad last night had a really, really impressive game in the McDonald's All-American game. He scored 21 points, and two other Kentucky recruits pitched in for 19 and 14. Now, if Kentucky can sign Shabazz Muhammad, you know what, Ari? We're looking at another possible number one recruiting class for Coach Cal, which is just amazing. He keeps doing it every year, and it's from what I've heard. I've been reading a little around, looking around different media, and I've seen that Shabazz is really interested in Kentucky. I think he's narrowed it down to Duke, and I believe maybe Kansas. UCLA was supposed to be in the hunt, but I just don't see that happening after everything happened with Howland. How do you think Coach Calipari keeps doing this every single year? Obviously, Davis, Gilchrist, all the guys are gone, are leaving this year, no matter for sure.
Gilchrist, Davis, yeah. He cheats. I mean, how else does he do it? I mean, let's make it plain, But so what? The game's dirty. He's dirty. Everyone knows he's dirty. It's not a secret. So how does he cheat? He's just smooth with it. He just knows how to keep his fingerprints off it, or does he? I mean, UMass got in trouble with Marcus Camby. Memphis got in trouble with several players, including Derrick Rose. I mean, like I always joke with Calipari, that when they put the banners up there, they might as well keep the ropes on because they're going to have to take them back down again.
Ari, why don't you tell us what you really think about it?
I mean, I personally don't care. I personally don't care that he cheats. So what? Big deal. He's better at it than everybody else. Get over it. He's better at cheating. Everyone cheats. If you need to win, you need an advantage, you cheat. The system is designed this way. I'm not mad. The old saying, don't hate the player, hate the game. It ain't the player here. It isn't Calipari. It's the game.
Right.
So you can get mad at Calipari and call him crooked all you want. All he's doing is manipulating whatever he can do to gain that competitive edge. So what? So, quote unquote, it's cheating. He's damn good at it. He deserves credit for it because he's able to do it. And at the same time, he's able to get the one and done players and figure out a way to get these guys to play. And to be honest with you, I mean, it is good for them. If you look at the development of some of these players, I mean, Terrence Jones say next year, he's probably more developed than he was before.
Right.
They learn how to play. He's really good at keeping these guys one and done. That's a skill. He deserves credit for that. He deserves a lot for that. It's not easy to do. Ask Paul Hewitt at Georgia Tech how that one and done did for him. He doesn't have the skill that Calipari has in bringing it together because the one and done players, he wasn't able to hold it together once guys like Favors and Aminu all left. Not Aminu, a couple other players left left early for Hewitt. He wasn't able to pull together. We're seeing Howland have trouble with that now as the repercussions over time for players like Westbrook and Drew Holiday and Love stepping out early. It has repercussions. Calipari always reloads in it because he's really, really good at figuring out the formula for these guys to fit in. He cheats better than everybody else, but so what?
Okay, we literally have 30 seconds. When I mean 30 seconds, I mean 30 seconds. It's been so great. I wish we could go longer, but we just want to get your Final Four picks on record so we have it. And again, we have to call our next guest right now. So real quick, who do you have winning?
At Kentucky, Kansas, Kentucky winning it all. Big surprise.
Score? Give us a score.
On a ledge right there, right?
Can you give us a score, Ari?
I don't know, 85, 81. What song? I just pulled that out of my tail.
And are they going to take that banner down in Kentucky in a couple of years?
Yeah, so what? No one cares. No one remembers. Everyone just remember the game. No one cares about that. You can't erase that from our memory yet. Technology isn't available at this point.
Not yet, at least. All right. This was too much fun. Will you please come back another time? We definitely have to do this again.
No doubt. Whenever. Hey, guys, give me a holler whenever you want to do it. I'll be more than happy to come on with you.
Absolutely.
Thank
so
you.
Much
it's been
fun.
really fun.
Thank you for coming on IsraelSportsRadio.com. We'll definitely be in touch.
No doubt, man. You guys have a great day.
You too.
All right, be well. Wow. I didn't know where to begin.
That was great.
He was blood honest. You can't call that man a liar. That is honest as it gets.
That was I work for him, I guess, now. I just started there, as you mentioned. Wow, yeah, that I've never heard anyone say that, this is radio, we have a lot of listeners, and he said what he thought. He didn't hide he didn't take anything back. And
I never heard anyone say Calipari cheats, but everybody cheats. Calipari just cheats better. I never heard anyone phrase it that way before. But he's right. When Calipari leaves a program, you know that program's in trouble. They're about a year or two away from sanctions. It's true.
And
he was right out with the ropes and the banners. He's also right that no one cares, which is a shame. That's the part really upsets me, because to me, I'm a big history buff, as you know, and I do not like these championships being tainted or teetered with. I kind of think
like Barry Bonds is.
With when we had Pete Rose on, we talked about that. But my thinking is, even though it sounds weird, it kind of gives an advantage to the cheater. Once the game is finished, then that's it. I don't think you could take away a title. I mean, the Red Sox in 2004 had guys who took steroids, Manny Ramirez being one of them. You can't take away that World Series and say the curse is now still back on. I don't believe in that. I think once it's over, it's over. You want to catch the person, be smart enough and catch them before the game is over. Catch them during the act, not 10 years after the act. All right, we're going to dial up our next guest. Big fan favorite here of Israel Sports Radio. It is 8:30 or 9:30 Arizona, so hopefully he's up and we'll pick up this phone call.
Early morning. We'll wish him a good morning.
Good morning. If he picks up. If not, we'll try another number, and then maybe we'll go to Jasmine early. We'll see. Or just talk more about what Ari Russell said.
Yeah, we can talk about that.
Took about like 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Sports is supposed to be, I like to take it seriously. I don't think it's just, I know it's a game, but I don't look at it as just a game.
Hello, and thank you for calling.
We'll try another number here. I know it's a game, but I take it more seriously than a game. I look at it as history. I look at it as part of Americana, like it's fact, it's written down. So I don't like the idea of a championship being taken away, even though it happens.
Yeah, it really is true. The whole Marcus Camby at UMass, Derrick Rose at Memphis, and they took away all the wins from the Memphis, from that 38-win team that lost. To
Kansas.
He's
right.
a great coach. I don't even really know. I've never heard anyone say that like on public radio, like live for everyone to hear. That takes a lot of chutzpah.
Hello, you've reached Andy. I'm unavailable.
We'll try it one more time, and then we'll move on.
Look, it could be sleeping. It's early in the morning there.
Yeah, Arizona's a 9-hour difference right now. We changed our clocks, but if you're listening here in Israel, 2 in the morning, I believe our time.
Back
we
to
changed
7 hours, which is horrible for all us fans in Israel. Like to watch those late, or not late, or well, I guess 7 p.m., 8 p.m. Eastern games, which go from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. to even 4, or excuse me, a.m. that is.
Well, that's when the Final Four game will be 1 in the morning here in Israel, because we changed the clocks. 1 and 4.
Which is, so that's.
But you'll be able to watch both, I'm sure.
I will be. It'll be an all-nighter, popcorn, everything, some hummus and pita,
popcorn
probably.
and hummus, nice.
It's Israel. Come on, we gotta
make it a little Israeli like that.
Yeah, and maybe some falafel. We'll see.
I don't think Andy's picking up.
Hello, and thank you for calling.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like he's not picking up.
All right, so we'll have Andy on another time.
Let's just talk a little more. All right?
Yes.
Let's continue.
Still
this
trying to go over what Ari Russell said.
You know what? I've talked about this with a lot of people, and it's really true. If anyone thinks that John Calipari is the only one that does what he does to get his players, that's absolute crap. A lot of coaches do it, and if you really think about it, Calipari has yet to be banned from sports, and whatever he does, Ari Russell quotes that he's very good. He's damn good at cheating, and I think he said, and he does it better than everyone else. And you think about it. Here, I'll give this question to you, Ari. Should that be renowned? Should that be a skill that he's so good at doing all this without? I mean, you look at guys like Calvin Sampson at Indiana. He was banned for 5 years from coaching. Calipari's never been banned. I mean, he's probably going to go somewhere else after Kentucky. Who can't believe he's going to be there for a long time. And hopefully he'll win a championship because he is a good coach, and I do respect him for being a good coach without anything else being said. He hasn't won a championship. But Ari, what are your thoughts on it? Would that be a good skill to have?
I mean, and these are supposed to be guys who are leading young men, into adulthood, to life. Well, that's a great question. Why has he not been banned? He's been caught a few times. Maybe what he's caught for is not as offensive as other people, or how he cheats is, at least what they catch him on, is not as bad as other people. I don't know. But I hope that when he's caught the next time, they do ban him. That'll be 4 times at 4 different teams. That was part of the reason why, he's taken 3 different teams to the Final Four is because he cheated 3 times. He also has 3 sanctions. So his teams have had 3 sanctions after he left. That's another thing, too. They punish the program with taking away scholarships or say they can't play on TV or can't play in the tournament, but the coach doesn't get punished. The coach moves on to another school and gets a big contract. So that's something they have to fix in college sports. That makes no sense whatsoever. But there has to be a reason. He keeps getting the recruiting classes, and you asked about Ari Russell how he does it, and Ari says because Calipari cheated.
Usually you hear he's a great recruiter. You hear that from, we've had so many people, John Akers, Dan Schulman, and I'm sure they would all say he's a great recruiter. He brings a lot to the table. But Ari Russell just came out and said, "Bam!" I love that. That's great. That was really great.
My curiosity would be, how much does he cheat? I mean, does he pay everyone? Does someone else pay him?
Yeah,
I mean,
at the end of the day, it's probably not coming out of his pocket. Let's be honest. I mean, he does make a lot, but boosters, side boosters.
Well, also, and how much money are they getting paid? I mean, a guy, if Derrick Rose, Derrick Rose got paid in Memphis. Apparently, Derrick Rose could have got paid money anywhere.
Right, I mean,
why he still had to convince him to come to Memphis? So what did he say the extra? I'm going to give you money, because money alone wouldn't have been enough.
Right,
Most schools are giving him money.
And this goes back to really, I wish we could dial up Jim right now and have him on.
Right,
of course.
You guys went at it pretty good yesterday. It was fun to listen to.
Yeah. And
Jim had that point out the stipends.
Yeah,
and the stipends might prevent some of this stuff.
And you think about it, $2,100 a month per a college player. Let's look at it both ways. That's a ton of money.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Some people have to work. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not doing the math.
It's a good American salary if someone can make $2,000 a month. That's
$48,000. Right, per
if
year.
It's 2,000, yeah.
That's insane. I mean, obviously it's not year round. We're probably talking 6 months, but that's $24,000. Some people have to work full time at McDonald's. I mean, and some people don't get the opportunity to get an education in the United States and have to work those kinds of jobs. And it's not nice to disrespect them and say, oh, they work at McDonald's. They're not good people or smart people. Just that's the way it works. And for some college kid to just make that because he's an athlete. Who knows? But then there's
wait. So hold on. If it's 2,000 for 6 months, it's $12,000.
Right, my bad. Not
right. So if it's 2,000 for 12 months, it's 24.
Oh, right, 24. My bad. Yeah, good. Sorry about that. Yeah.
So if it's for 6 months,
still though, 12 grand. I mean, for what? Yeah. To buy video games, to buy food after class. I mean, I agree, but and do you have to give that to everyone? Do you give that to a guy that goes to?
Well, that's the problem you're going to have, because you're going to give it to the 12th guy and the star.
Right, and no, but not even that, Ari. What about, do you give it to the guy who goes to Western Montana Tech? Like, do you give it to all Division I, Division II? Because the guys who are getting it are really programs, Kentucky, UCLA, Duke, Indiana, that every time, they sign contracts with ESPN for millions of dollars to be on. A lot of people don't realize this. Indiana is on ESPN all the time, and this is not just because they're a great program. This is because it's the way it is. They've been horrible for 3 years. They were still on TV when they had a 1-12 record in the Big Ten, and so, I mean, this is something that's just so.
Well, here's another thing that I would ask about. If you're going to give money, how much do you give it to? What happens if you sign a kid, if you will, you give him money, and then he doesn't play good, and you want to cut him from the team? then do you not pay him anymore? Because in the NBA, that's what they would do.
Right, and you can't obviously put in the scholarship offer. Oh, P.S. We're going to pay you $2,000 a month. This is never and you can't. It's actually a very good point, Ari, because you can't go to a lawyer and go, hey, by the way, the coach illegally didn't pay me, because we know how America works. Everything has to be written down on paper. If it's not, then there's no point. Oral agreements, no, thank you. That's never going to happen. It has to be written down, and no coach in his dreams would ever write down in a scholarship offer you're going to get $2,000 on the side. That's all done on the side. So, very good point.
The problem also, and Jim Williams made that great. I couldn't believe it. I was astonished when I heard that Charlie Ward himself was responsible for bringing Florida State $73 million.
I mean, yeah, he deserves even 1% of that. 10% of that is $730,000. Like 1%.
Well, no, 10% would be $7.3 million.
So, yeah, wow, my math is way off today.
So 1% though is $700,000.
Right.
And if you want to go 1/10 of a percent, that's $70,000. If
right.
you give him $70,000, it's 1/10 of a percent
of 1%
of what he brought.
Yeah, and what was he? Was 21 at the time, 22. I mean, anyone to get that kind of money for playing sports before there, and we all knew he was going to go to the NFL. Let's not talk about what happened in the NFL, but.
Well, and had a good career with the Knicks, and said some weird comments about Christians being prejudiced against by Jews or something.
Right,
something
and that kind of hurt his credibility. But
that was a little weird. But a good player.
You always expect that from these cuckoo guys in college. Dennis Rodman is ill and sick when really he's just an alcoholic. I'm just going to go ahead and say, if Ari Russell's going to be honest, let's call it the honest segment. That's what I think happened to Dennis Rodman. He's just kind of a druggie, and there's been reports that he flies all over the world to different nightclubs, so I don't really see how he's broke. But that's what his lawyer says.
It could be on paper he's broke. Paper he's filing bankruptcy.
Maybe in his bank he's broke, but at home he has a $10 million home and $2 million in the what's it called? I only know the word in Hebrew. Where they put money.
Dropbox, Cashbox,
Vault.
A vault. Oh yeah.
Vault. Right. So, wow, it's been a very great segment. Like the last 45 minutes, I feel like we got into a lot of energy, a lot of excitement, and thank you, Ari Russell, if you're listening.
Yes.
Out there.
That was excellent. That was one of our finest guests. All right, let's bring on another guest. If Chris Live Radio, so she'll have to pick up the phone. I like Andy Dorf.
Jasmine Marcus.
Yes, Jasmine talked the Final Four with her, who hosted a college basketball show last year on IsraelSportsRadio.com. If she doesn't pick up, we'll call a few times till she does.
Yeah, she might be.
Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice.
She's in school right now on, I believe, occupational physical therapy.
We'll try again in 2
She's
minutes.
such a great story for everyone out there who doesn't really know much about her. Her boyfriend was this blog sensation for the New York Times, and she wrote for the Cornell Sun. Her boyfriend played pro basketball in Ashkelon last year. I believe his name is John Jakes. John Jakes.
Yeah.
He was part of that Sweet 16 Cornell team that with Ryan Whitman and Jeff Foote, who she's talked about a few times. Is she on the air right now?
No, she's not. She's not right now. Okay. That's a different number.
That's a different one. Okay. Yeah, as you mentioned, we've had some technical problems today. We haven't had any commercials, as you noticed, but it's
that's on purpose. No, it's not.
No,
but
it's flown
show
really well. It's gone really well with that. I don't
Yeah.
think we would have had time for commercials, one guest after the other.
All right, let's try her again. If not, we'll try one more time.
Let's do it. If not, we'll talk.
We'll schmooze for the final segment.
Right.
After
there's a lot of stuff that we didn't talk about.
Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice.
Try one more time after this. But what else? What else is on your mind outside the Final Four?
What else is on my mind outside the Final Four? Well, to be honest, I think the NBA is starting to pick up. I think next week, just some programming announcements. We're gonna have Zvi Tversky on from Slam to talk about the NBA. I think there's a month left in the season, so the playoffs are coming up.
Wow, around the corner.
Pretty soon. So I think we're going to switch. I mean, it's going to be sad to say goodbye to college basketball. We've had so many great guests on. We've had so many great talks. But it's time to move on to the NBA and the MLB. Nationals, I think, are going to be an exciting team this year to watch. Maybe the Blue Jays. But yeah, NBA, the Heat have been really struggling since the All-Star break. I think it's a big thing to talk about. LeBron has had elbow injuries, back injuries, and now he has a dislocated finger.
Ring finger.
Right.
He hurt his ring finger trying to put on Dwayne Wade's ring.
Right.
That's what happened.
Exactly. That's what our sources have told us in Miami. But we're also going to have Clayton Carter next week. Our Southern insider is going to talk with us about the Heat. That'll be great.
Hello?
Oh,
Hi, Jasmine. It's Ari Louis. You're on Louis Live at IsraelSportsRadio.com. How you doing out there?
Good. How are you?
Doing great. We were just talking about your bio. Of course, you hosted Jump Shots with Jasmine last year on IsraelSportsRadio.com. Let's get right into it. The Final Four. I know North Carolina is probably missing the best player, but how surprised were you that they're not in the Final Four?
I wasn't surprised given we're missing.
Jasmine, can you still hear us?
It looks like from normal Skype activity, it looks like she lost reception, I believe.
Okay, so we'll try it right there. Go ahead, Raphael. You were saying?
What was I saying?
I don't remember. I was just trying to buy some time here.
Okay. But the Heat. No. I was talking about next week. Clayton Carter. And a great guest on Tuesday. We're gonna have some And One people. I think the owner of And One, which will be great, and then the CEO of the Live Tour on Tuesday, right when the show starts at 5 p.m. local time, and now 10 a.m. Excuse me. She's gonna be on at 6.
Hey, hi, Jasmine. Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Go ahead. So you're talking about Carolina, the absence of them in the Final Four.
Yeah. Well, what I was saying was it wasn't very surprising, but I was very disappointed because I had them winning in my bracket. So now I'm out of a champion.
Yeah, I'm with you. I had a lot of people think had Carolina winning the whole thing, and Ari Bluestein did as well. So he's not going to win this bracket, the Israel Sports Radio bracket. Neither am I. I don't think I'll be last place at least. But I think I threw a little shot there.
Wow. Okay.
I don't know who second place is, but right now he looks like he's going to win it because he has the most opportunity on points.
Yeah, he's actually a very good friend of mine.
Oh, you know who this guy is?
Oh, absolutely. He's a huge college basketball fan from Indiana University. So. Yeah.
Jasmine, how much does it bother you that you're not going to win the bracket? Are you going to be able to sleep tonight?
Yeah, I think I will. I made all different brackets for every group that I'm in. So I think I'm in first place in one that I have with some of my friends. So.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
Nice.
It evened out a little bit.
All right.
Hey, Jasmine, how you doing? It's Raphael.
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Excited to speak to you. It's always fun. Anyway, I want to get to the games this weekend. Really this weekend, I guess in 2 days, Motzei Shabbat here. And let's first talk about this Kansas-Ohio State game. Very interesting game. Kansas beat Ohio State early in the year. Of course, Sullinger was not playing, so that's a big deal. But I think the Buckeyes kind of want to get revenge. What are you going to be looking forward to in this game? And can you give us a player to look out for?
I really like Robinson on Kansas. I think he was in the news. I talked about him a lot last year because there was a lot of tragedy in his family, and that kind of, I think, is what first put him on the radar for a lot of people. And then it seems like he sort of let what was affecting him personally kind of motivate him as a player. And so I think that he's come a long way since then, and he's moved up to starter now, and I think he really puts the team on his back. So I'm really interested to see him on Kansas, and I think that's the game I'm probably most looking forward to. And yeah, I'm not sure who I think is going to win, but I think it'll be a really good game.
Right, and for our listeners out there, it's really a terrible story. It's so I think in a 3-week span, he lost his mother, his grandfather, and his grandmother. I don't even know that's possible, but he really bounced back. Last year, he a lot of struggles with it, but this year he's had a great year. Was the first team All-America. That just came out, I think, yesterday. We've talked about that a lot on the show. So that's really great to see that he got rewarded, or not rewarded, but everything is going to work out for him. He's going to be able to provide for his family. That was a big issue, is that he was now the man of the house, and it's looking like he's going to be a top 10 pick in the NBA. So that's a couple million guaranteed right there. So good for him. On the other hand, the other game, which is really, I think everyone is really looking forward to this game more than any other, or than the other game, that is. The Kentucky-Louisville game, two of the best teams in Kentucky, if not one of the best traditions in the country. Patino goes from Kentucky to Louisville. Well, yeah, the NBA stint in between. But what are you going to be looking forward to in this game? Do you think Louisville can win? I know no one is picking Louisville. I've not heard one person pick Louisville yet. But, let me ask you this. If for Louisville to win, what do you think they need to do?
I think that sometimes when you're the team that no one's picking, it kind of lights a fire under you and motivates you more. And they could almost go into the game just thinking that they have nothing to lose. And I think that just that edge could help them. I don't know that I would necessarily pick them, but I think that just because no one is picking them, that they will have kind of that extra fight in them. And maybe I've said it before, I think sometimes towards the end, the players at Kentucky, since every year so many of them just do go straight into the draft, it's almost like they don't care as much about what it would mean for the school and to win a tournament, because they're just looking forward to getting into the NBA, playing professionally, and it's not as big a deal for them as it might be to players who, winning the tournament. That would just be it for them.
Right, that's a good point, and that's kind of been Calipari's knock. He's been such a successful coach, win-loss wise, record-wise in the regular season, but he still has not won a championship, and he's had some really, really good teams. I mean, you think about coaches maybe like Roy Williams or Bobby Knight or Krzyzewski that had the teams he had, they probably would have won a championship. I'm not even trying to give it be mean to Calipari. It's just my opinion, especially that team with Derrick Rose a couple years. They almost won, but they lost because of free throws. And this year's Kentucky team is much, much better. They're a great free throw shooting team. But, that's good stuff. So on the others, let's talk a little bit more about this Kentucky team. You kind of said it. They're a lot of them are one and done. They might not care as much. They all know they're going to be making money next year. But I was just curious if you've seen this, and if not, I just want to get your opinion. There's been this huge thing going on in the Twitter world and all that, Facebook and all that, YouTube, of this video of Michael Kidd-Gilchrist who's talking to the media, and he just seems to not make any sense. They're just asking him questions, and he's not making any sense. And a lot of people just started bashing Calipari. How can you recruit a guy like this who, quote unquote, people have called stupid, dumb? How can this guy be in college? But this is where there's a catch. A couple days after this got huge attention, someone, I don't remember who it was, someone close to the situation came out and said, guys, you need to stop doing this because Michael Kidd-Gilchrist actually has a lot of speech impediment problems. And he actually, and so all these people now are apologizing because they really bashed him. And you should check it out, Jasmine, when you get a chance. Type into YouTube.
Yeah, I actually hadn't heard about that.
Yeah,
I know that brings up similar things that when they played us in the Sweet 16 a couple of years ago, people made a big hype about Kentucky and versus Cornell, and the Kentucky players are so stupid, and the Cornell players are so smart, and they really played that up in the press. And so then they interviewed the Kentucky players about it, and the Kentucky players just said something stupid like, "Oh, this isn't a spelling bee," or they kind of said it doesn't matter how smart we are. And they did come away with the win. Yeah. And so I think to some extent you can say, how is this person in college if they never would have gotten into college? But at the end of the day, Coach Calipari, he doesn't care about that. He just wants them to play basketball. Right. And I guess I'm curious about is, no one ever heard him have a speech impediment until this interview, or
no? Actually, it's not even like that. It's people and all the Kentucky fans know about it. It's just something that's never been really put out.
It was known about before.
Yeah, but it's like the reason why I know this is the whole Indiana roots. This video went viral in Indiana because, especially after Indiana lost to Kentucky, but and. Obviously I'm a huge IU fan, but I feel horrible because someone, from what I also read, he's been doing speech therapy since he was a little boy. And so, I just feel bad for all the people that bashed him. I actually didn't really do anything about it. I just kind of watched it and just thought to myself, this is kind of weird. But, Yeah. Also, the thing people don't realize is, Kentucky, University of Kentucky is in Kentucky, but it is a liberal town. It's the same thing with Indiana. People go, oh, you lived in Indiana, especially when I tell people in Israel, and I say, it's a very liberal town, meaning that people go there because it's a good university. There's a lot of smart people, a lot of great music. And so this is really the same thing with Kentucky. I've been to Lexington. It's not this hillbilly town in Kentucky.
Yeah, I've been there too, actually.
Right. So I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's not maybe Murray State is a hillbilly town in Kentucky. Even Louisville. Louisville's a town of 700,000 people. They have a AAA baseball.
Oh wow, I didn't realize that.
Right. It's a very big city. So I think people kind of forget that about Kentucky a lot. But anyway, so now that the Final Four has been written out for us, who do you think's going to win, and what do you think the score is going to be? And I guess really the most important question is, who do you think's going to come out of the tournament saying, like, we could have won, but we messed up?
I hate Kentucky, so it's hard for me to look at this unbiased. I really think it could be them, or I really like the Ohio State team this year. So I think it's gonna definitely come down to the two of them. I think Kansas will always have an argument that they could have won, and obviously whoever loses the title game will say that they could have won. I'm not sure that Louisville will be able to make that claim at the end. But yeah, I think it's going to come down to Ohio State and Kentucky.
Right, and Rick Pitino was actually on PTI a couple days ago, and I watched it, and he made a really good point. He said, when you're at the start of the tournament, you just want to, you want to win the first game or two so you don't lose that first game. Because, we saw this year teams like Missouri, Michigan lost that first game at Duke, as Ari Louis picked. I got to give him credit.
That's right.
Again, because he keeps talking about it. But, once you're in the Final Four, you're not saying to yourself, oh, I'm in the Final Four. That's great. I got this far. I wasn't expecting to get this far. You're in the Final Four. You want to win.
Yeah.
And all you have to do is win 2 games. And it's not like Louisville is this mid-major team. So I think with what you said earlier, a lot of people are not expecting them to win. Actually, no one is expecting them to win. So that's going to help. And another cool stat we heard from John Akers yesterday from the Basketball Times is Calipari has never beaten Rick Pitino in the NCAA tournament. And they've played a lot against each other. Yeah, it's very interesting. So this is also a big game for Calipari, because if for some reason Louisville wins, Calipari will probably say to himself, I had the best team I could have had this year. This team really could have gone undefeated. That 1-point loss to Indiana and I think 5-point loss to Vanderbilt. That's it. It was a perfect season. If he can't win with this team, he'll never be able to beat Pitino. So I just think that's also interesting. But that's just my thoughts. I think it's going to be a great game. I think the MVP of the Final Four will be, you know what, I'm going to go with not an orthodox pick. I'm going to go with Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, not Anthony Davis, anyone else. I think he's going to be the reason why they win. Could you give us real quick who you think might be the MVP of the weekend?
I don't know. I think it's all going to depend on who wins, and if there's an upset. If it's kind of the underdog, as we were saying, if it's Louisville, it'll be whoever was the most prolific person on that team. I think it's really going to just come down to which team wins. And I don't think, it's not going to be like, oh, if Louisville loses, they're going to get the MVP. So I don't know if it's going to come down to so much as the best player all year versus just the player who manages to surprise the audience and with a breakaway performance.
All right, Jasmine, we so appreciate your time. We got to wrap things up and end the show, but we will be in touch, and we'll have you on because of what you're studying in school. I know we talked a couple months ago about having you on more often, so we'll hopefully do that. Yeah. And enjoy the games this weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, I have one last question for Jasmine before we end it, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Jasmine, can you give me, I don't even know if our listeners really care, but can you give me an update on what's going on with Jeff Foote, your friend?
Yeah, he had his 10 days on the Hornets.
Oh, wow.
And so we went and actually saw him against the Nets, and then unfortunately that was his last day on the team, and he didn't play. So now he's back in Massachusetts on the D League, And I think, the NBA season's about to end, the regular season. So I think he's doing really well in the D-League. He was on the All-Star D-League team. And I think he's kind of just going to try to finish out the season really strong, train over the summer, and then kind of just hope that things pick up a little bit next year. But it was really cool to see him, in the jersey and on the bench. So that was really fun.
All right.
Okay, no, thanks. I was just curious to see what was going on with him. Maybe he'll come back to Israel. I know he had a bad experience here, and that just sucks because I'd like to see him play in Israel. But we'll see what happens with him.
All right, Jasmine. Good luck to Jeff Foote. Again, enjoy the games this weekend, and we'll certainly be in touch.
Thank you, guys.
Okay,
all right, be well, Jasmine.
Okay, bye.
All right, that's going to conclude our show for tonight. Want to remind everyone tomorrow to check out the IFL Israel Bowl 5, the quest for the Ofri Becker Trophy. Want to thank everyone who is a part of tonight's broadcast. Barry Bloom, our now Major League Baseball insider for IsraelSportsRadio.com. We appreciate his time. He was very blunt, gave us some great insight. Itai Ashkenazi, the quarterback of the Tel Aviv Pioneers, who will be playing tomorrow.
Tomorrow should be a great game.
Yeah, it's going to be a great game. We'll be playing tomorrow against Said Abilafia, our guest at 5:45, and the Tel Aviv Sabres. And at 6 o'clock, Ari Russell just, the MVP of this show.
MVP.
The MVP of this show, he was blood honest. You got to check out that segment. He was just told it like it is. There's no way to get around it.
Right.
If everyone did that, the world would be a more blunt place, but it'd be a more beautiful place to not have any fakeness, falseness, or lies. So congrats to Ari Russell for telling it like it is. And, of course, Jasmine Marcus from the Cornell Sun telling us about Jeff Foote. Yes.
And just one last thing I want to say, because tonight's a huge, huge game in Israeli basketball, world basketball, not Israeli basketball. Maccabi Tel Aviv is playing Panathinaikos in Nokia Arena at 9:15. They're up 2-1 in the series. It's the quarterfinals. If they win this, it's the Elite Eight, I guess. If they win this, they're going to the Final Four. They lost to Panathinaikos in the EuroLeague Championship last year. This is probably the biggest sporting thing in Israel for our listeners out there. It's bigger, really, than soccer. The Nokia Arena is packed with 12,000 fans, standing room. It's going to be a great game. If you're in Israel, tune in. If not, you can check it out on EuroLeague.com. There's a stream. It's a huge game. If we win this game, we're winning the series and moving on to the Final Four. And that's it.
All right. And again, of course, tomorrow, Israel Bowl number 5, quest for Ofri Becker Trophy between the Tel Aviv Pioneers and the Tel Aviv Sabres. That's tomorrow. That's it for tonight. God bless. Say goodnight.